All sentient beings are equal. These 4 words may be simple, yet they embody the profoundest wisdom within the Dharma. When we see ants, birds, cats, and dogs, and then look at ourselves, can we truly achieve a mind free of discrimination? Is it true, as stated in the Buddha's teachings, that among all things there is no inherent superiority or inferiority? The Avadamsaka Sutra states that all sentient beings inherently possess the wisdom and virtues of the Tathagata. However, one cannot attain enlightenment due to attachment to false thoughts. This statement reveals an astonishing truth. The difference between sentient beings and Buddhas does not lie in their essence, but in their delusion. There is a story from the time of the Buddha's teachings that tells of a noble monk and his unusual karmic connection with a yellow dog, revealing the profound truth of the equality of all sentient beings. It was a summer afternoon. Cicadas chirped in the distance, and the blazing sun filtered through the treetops, casting golden patches of light. The Buddha, preaching the Dharma at the Javaka's mango grove outside Rajgir, was surrounded by hundreds of disciples seated in the sacred hall. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, as if nature itself was praising the subtlety of the Buddha's teachings in its own way. Beside the dirt path outside the garden, a gaunt yellow dog lay quietly, its gaze intently fixed in the direction of the Dharma assembly. He was not like an ordinary wild dog eager to search for food. Instead, he appeared exceptionally calm, with an unusual gleam flickering in his eyes. In the center of the Dharma assembly, a young bhikkhu is seeking teachings from Buddha. His name was Shanming, born into a distinguished noble family of Guangxi City, handsome in appearance and elegant in demeanor. Although he had already been tonsured as a monk, the innate noble aura he possessed remained evident. The sound of Shanming is clear and bright to the ear. The Blessed One, recently I have been reciting the Diamond Sutra and have been reflecting deeply on the teaching of the 4 forms. No self form, no person form, no sentient being form, and no recipient form. Yet, despite repeated contemplation, my mind remains clouded with doubt, and I am unable to fully comprehend their meaning. He paused briefly, then continued. We are born as human beings endowed with wisdom, capable of discerning right from wrong and practicing the Dharma, whereas beings in the animal realm are exceedingly dull and ignorant. The distinctions between these 2 states of existence are clear and definite. If it is said that there is no inherent nature arising, wouldn't that contradict the perception of present experience? Shanming, at that moment, inadvertently glanced at a yellow dog outside the garden and couldn't help but sneer disdainfully. Just like those beings of the animal realm, even if they come to hear the Dharma, how much of the true meaning of the Buddha's teachings can they truly comprehend? If one says there is no difference between myself and others, the disciple finds it difficult to agree. These words prompted several young monks nearby to nod slightly, clearly indicating that they harbored similar doubts in their hearts. An elderly bhikkhu showed displeasure and was about to scold the layperson for their disrespect, but he saw the Buddha raise his hand to stop him, a meaningful smile appearing on his face. The Buddha's gaze first looked affectionately at Shanming, then turned toward the yellow dog outside the courtyard, a subtle and inexplicable emotion flickering in his eyes. Shanming, the question you raised is excellent. Those who study Buddhism should be like this. Whenever there is doubt, they must ask. Address it promptly without delay. Then the Buddha turned to Ananda beside him and said, Ananda, could you please invite that yellow dog inside to join us in listening to the Dharma? Although Ananda was surprised, he immediately obeyed the order and proceeded. The disciples looked at each other in confusion, unable to understand the Buddha's intention. Ananda arrived outside the circular gate and softly called the yellow dog a few times. The dog, as if understanding human intentions, immediately stood up and followed Ananda into the Dharma assembly, but did not dare approach the crowd. Instead, it quietly laid down in a distant corner, keeping its eyes fixed on the Buddha at all times. Shanming, do you know who this yellow dog was in its past life? The Buddha suddenly asked, his voice calm, yet striking each person's heart like a thunderclap. Shanming nodded affirmatively, subconsciously shaking his head, while the disciple remained unaware. In his previous life, he was also a bhikkhu named Yuan, who once practiced and listened to the Dharma with us at Loi Monastery. The Buddha's words caused a stir throughout the entire monastery, and everyone's gaze simultaneously turned toward that inconspicuous yellow dog. Shaming was so shocked that he was speechless. After a long while, he stammered and asked, "World-honored one, if he was also a diligent practicing monk in his past life, why has he fallen into the animal realm in this life? Doesn't this imply that practice is ultimately no different?" The Buddha's gaze grew profound, as if transcending time and space. "Shaming, listen to what I have to say. In his past life, Ziyuan was indeed a highly knowledgeable bhikkhu, well-versed in the Tripitaka and the Abhidharma treatise, Abhidharmakosa. He often expounded the Dharma among disciples. However, he was overly intelligent to the point of pride, clinging to his own views and unwilling to let go." The world-honored one paused briefly, then continued, saying that he often believed he followed the correct path through physical conduct, yet in truth had not attained it. The Diamond Sutra also states, if a bodhisattva holds the notions of self, person, living being, or lifespan, he is not a true bodhisattva. May one be able to recite these words, yet not truly grasp their meaning in the heart. The garden was enveloped in silence, as if even the wind had ceased to blow, and all gathered were fully attentive to the Buddha's teaching. 12 years ago, during a Dharma assembly, an elder named Puli was explaining the Nirvana Sutra. Due to his old age and declining memory, some parts of his commentary were inaccurate. Someone immediately stood up and sharply pointed out these errors, showing no respect for the elder and publicly mocking him, saying that Elder Puli had a mere empty reputation, unable even to explain the basic meaning of the sutra, and therefore was unfit to guide sentient beings, ultimately causing harm to both himself and others. Elder Pali, disciples in the monastery. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "World-honored one, your disciple still harbors doubts. The Diamond Sutra states, all fragrant substances are illusory. If all fragrances are said to be illusory, then why are the causes and effects of good and evil considered real and not illusory? If causality is real, how can fragrance be illusory?" What perplexes the disciple even more is, what fundamentally distinguishes humans from animals? If there is no difference, why must we strive diligently in practice? How could animals possibly attain Buddhahood? The Buddha pondered for a moment and then asked, "Shanming, what do you think is the difference between yourself and this yellow dog?" Without hesitation, Shanming replied, "World-honored one, we humans possess complete 6 sense faculties. We are capable of thinking, practicing cultivation, and attaining liberation. Beings in the animal realm are dull and ignorant, spending their days solely striving for food, without understanding even the most basic ethical principles. How can they be compared to humans?" The Buddha shook his head and smiled, saying, "Shanming, your attachment, believing that animals are necessarily dull, is precisely the discriminative mind we must overcome. The Vimla Sutra states that the Buddha's body is unconditioned and does not adhere to any qualities. All beings' fundamental nature is originally pure and tranquil, but due to deluded attachments and ignorance, they fail to realize this. It is like a finger pointing at the moon, yet the true moon is obscured by the finger itself." The Buddha turned to the yellow dog and gently asked, "Paper Kite, do you understand what I am saying now?" To the astonishment of all present, the yellow dog actually lifted its head and nodded towards the Buddha, its eyes reflecting not the bewilderment of an animal, but the understanding and sorrow akin to that of a human being. "Do you see it?" The Buddha told Shanming that although he was in the form of a dog, he still retained the seeds of wisdom from his past lives, enabling him to understand the Dharma, but he was simply unable to express it verbally. Therefore, although the forms of humans and dogs differ, their Buddha nature is no different. I often say that all sentient beings possess the wisdom and virtues of the Tathagata. It is only due to deluded thoughts and attachments that they cannot attain true enlightenment. Shanming frowned deeply, clearly still not fully understanding. The Buddha said, if, as you claim, both humans and dogs possess Buddha nature, yet dogs cannot cultivate the path, cannot uphold the sutras or recite them, how then can they attain liberation and become Buddhas? The setting sun cast a golden veil over the round, crystal hue, and the Buddha's face appeared especially solemn under the glow of the dusk light. He looked at Shanming and asked softly, Shanming, if I could let you personally see the non-duality of human and dog, would you be willing to let go of your attachments? With hands joined in reverence, Shanming humbly wishes to hear the detailed teachings. The Buddha smiled and looked at the yellow dog, gesturing for you to come over. The yellow dog heard the sound, stood up, and walked in a circle toward the Buddha. Strangely, his manner of walking was no longer that of a quadrupedal dog, but carried the dignified bearing of a monk, each step steady and solemn. When a yellow dog approached the Buddha formed a peculiar mudra with his hands, from which golden light emanated from his fingertips, enveloping the yellow dog. Amidst the astonished gazes of the crowd, the yellow dog's form began to change. Its fur receded, the body elongated, the front elbows transformed into arms, and the hind legs became human legs. Finally, it took the appearance of an elderly monk with white hair, clad in a faded robe. Though the face appeared haggard, the eyes shone with exceptional brightness. May only the elder bhikkhu exclaim in surprise, "Is it really you? Weren't you already gone more than a decade ago?" The elderly bhikkhu only wished to join his hands in Anjali Mudra and pay respects to everyone. Amitabha Buddha, fellow Dharma brothers, I have not truly regained a human body. It is only by the Buddha's compassion that I temporarily manifest my former appearance to repent before the public. In my past life, I was indeed well-versed in the Tripitaka teachings, but because of this, I developed arrogance, believing that I possessed profound and virtuous Dharma. In reality, it was merely an intellectual understanding and had not truly integrated into my mind and nature. I once relied on my talents and looked down on others, mocking fellow practitioners whose insights were inferior to mine. In particular, I publicly humiliated the Persian elder, which caused him great sorrow, leading to his demise. I only wish to speak up to this point, tears rolling down my eyes. After death, I may fall into the animal realm. Yet there is the fortunate karma of good roots planted in past lives. Though I can still hear the Buddha's teachings, I am unable to speak or practice. Each day my heart feels as if it is being cut by a knife. Every day I lie outside the garden listening to the sutras, hoping that one day I can atone for the sins of my past lives, yet I find no opportunity. Today, by the compassionate grace of the Blessed One, I am able to entrust and express the remorse within my heart. Within the garden, birds sing and insects chirp as a gentle breeze caresses the air. It feels as though heaven and earth alike are witnessing this miraculous moment. The Buddha's voice is as pure as a clear spring. May your karmic debts not be entirely extinguished, yet may you have realized liberation. Even in the form of a dog, you uphold the precepts, indicating a profound depth of wholesome roots. Today, due to the auspicious conditions, it is a good opportunity to expound to the assembly the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha looked at Shanming, his eyes filled with wisdom and compassion. Shanming, do you now understand what I mean by saying that humans and dogs are no different? With profound reverence and overwhelming awe, hands joined in prayer, he deeply bowed to the Buddha and earnestly requested the world-honored one to give a teaching. The Buddha points to nirvana, characterized by the absence of a self-entity, not implying the non-existence of the self, but rather the abandonment of attachment to a fixed and unchanging self. Observing nirvana, the same mind consciousness manifests in diverse forms due to differing attachments. The human body of the past was one of suffering. The present one is also painful. the future may take the form of other beings, like water that flows and changes, lacking any fixed nature. How can there be an eternal, unchanging self to be found? Shan Ming seemed to be pondering. The meaning of the Buddha's teaching is that we should not cling to the physical form of the body, but rather recognize the true nature of the mind. Well said, well said. The Buddha smiles in repentance. The term no self-identity refers to not clinging to external conditions such as a person's status, position, material nature, or appearance. Your recent belief that humans are superior to dogs is an attachment to the form of being human. The difference between humans and dogs lies only in their temporary forms and karmic conditions. Essentially equal and indivisible, all possess the wisdom and virtuous characteristics of the Tathagata. It is only due to deluded thoughts and attachments that they fail to attain right enlightenment. May all beings bow with hands joined in reverence. In my past life, I was attached to the appearance of people, mistakenly believing that understanding the sutras made me superior. As a result, my arrogance grew day by day, and I ultimately fell into the realm of animals. The Lotus Sutra also states that all dharmas inherently possess the nature of eternal quiescence and extinction. Although I have studied the Tripitaka thoroughly, I have never truly seen my own original mind, which is truly lamentable. At this moment, a young monk raised his hand and asked, "World-honored one, if there is no distinction between humans and dogs, then how do we explain the doctrine of the 6 realms of samsara?" The Buddha looked around and pointed to the flowers, plants, trees, birds, insects, and fish in the garden. The so-called no characteristic of sentient beings does not mean that sentient beings do not exist. The Dharma is boundless. The Dharma is boundless. Shan Ming's gaze became clear and serene. If the Buddha teaches that all sentient beings are without distinction, how then should one understand the cycle of birth and death, samsara? The so-called characteristic of non-receiving refers to not clinging to phenomena such as the length of life or life and death. The voice of the Buddha is like a gentle breeze sweeping across the lake surface. One would rather transform from a bhikkhu into the form of a dog, appearing only temporarily in human shape. The forms of life are like the moon reflected in water or flowers reflected in a mirror. Mere illusions formed by the convergence of conditions. Attachment to longevity, fear of death, and a desire for life are all attachments to phenomena. The Diamond Sutra and Yuyun say, if one sees all forms as non-forms, then one sees the Tathagata. Do you understand the profound meaning of these words? As soon as the words fell, Ziyuan's figure suddenly began to sway, emitting a low groan. The disciples' karmic debts were not yet settled, and it seemed unlikely that the human form could be maintained for long. The Buddha compassionately looked at him and said, "May your karma not yet be fully exhausted. You still need to continue your practice in the form of dog. However, today you have come to understand the truth that the 4 marks are all empty. By sincerely confessing and repenting, you will surely obtain a human rebirth in the future, allowing you to continue your practice and guidance. May only a serene smile grace my face, with hands joined in reverence. I humbly thank the Blessed One for his compassionate teachings." The disciple has understood the principle that all 4 marks are empty and no longer clings to external forms. Even if returning to the form of a dog, my mind still yearns for the Dharma. Thus, birth and death are one and the same. His figure gradually diminished, transforming back into the form of that yellow dog, quietly lying at the feet of the Buddha. Astonishingly, the sadness in his eyes had vanished, replaced instead by a serene tranquility that reflected a sense of liberation. As the sun sets in the west, the evening glow paints the sky like a picture, illuminating the contemplative faces of the disciples. Everyone is deeply reflecting on the profound teachings of today's auspicious Dharma assembly. A virtuous man stepped forward and respectfully knelt before the Buddha, tears welling in his eyes. Today, disciple truly realizes his own mistake for the first time. I have always been attached to external appearances, neglecting the innate Buddha nature within. The difference between humans and dogs lies merely in the temporary relinquishment of all attachments and diligent cultivation of practice. The Buddha smiled as he gently touched Shanming's shoulder, saying, "Well done, well done. It is indeed rare for good wisdom to attain such understanding. Remember what you have seen and heard today, and constantly observe your own mind at all times. Do not be deluded by external appearances." The Vimalakirti Sutra speaks of the non-dual Dharma gate, which is precisely the teaching that breaks all discrimination and attachments. If even humans and dogs show no inherent difference, how much less should distinctions of nobility and inferiority exist among humans themselves? As nightfall descends, the pure moonlight bathes the serene setting of Chiyuan, where even the yellow dog and paper kite join the assembly of disciples in paying homage to the Buddha. Many disciples tossed and turned throughout the night, unable to sleep, repeatedly contemplating the Buddha's teachings and the past and present lives of the yellow dog. Shanming sat in quiet meditation under the moonlight, gradually realizing the subtle, non-dual Dharma door. He looked at the yellow dog lying quietly not far away and, for the first time, truly cultivated a genuine mind of equality from the depths of his heart. There is no real distinction between humans and dogs. All sentient beings are fundamentally equal. On that night, illuminated by moonlight reflecting on the water, many touched the pure awareness deep within their hearts. Many relinquished attachment and beheld their original nature. According to the later Exalted One, on that very night, at least 7 disciples attained ordination. The yellow dog, known only as the aspirant, peacefully passed away after 12 years during one night. It is said that after being reborn as a human, the dog diligently practiced and ultimately attained the fruit of an arhat. This story has been passed down through the ages, conveying a simple yet profound truth. All sentient beings possess Buddha nature and can attain enlightenment and Buddhahood. The external appearance of life is like clothing, which can be changed. The intrinsic awakened nature is like a luminous pearl, eternally unchanging. When we let go of discriminative thoughts and no longer cling to appearances, we can perceive the true nature of all things. As stated in the Diamond Sutra, all conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or a flash of lightning. Thus should one perceive them. Regardless of your current identity or state, as long as your heart inclines toward wholesome Dharma and you let go of attachments, one day you will return to that original, pure, undefiled nature. Because in the truth of the universe, all sentient beings are originally equal, and all dharmas are inherently complete.